Hey guys, Rollout here, and it's been an entire decade since OneThatIs uploaded his first LEGO Transformer. But you probably don't remember who that is, because it's been a long time since he published anything new, and as far as I know, he's left YouTube behind to pursue a career in animation. But whether he knows it or not, he influenced so many of us that have continued building LEGO Transformers to this day. He was among the first on YouTube who created his own world and his own unique characters, instead of just building another Megatron or another Optimus Prime. And despite his very simple building methods and modest attitude about them, I think that his ideas still hold up. And so, for next month's AllSpark Assembly Challenge, the LEGO Transformers community will be reimagining original OneThatIs characters in our own style. Kicking things off, here is my rendition of his very first, originally uploaded 10 years ago today. This is LEGO Transformers Solarstream. It's worth mentioning that I've decided to base this entirely off of the original creation rather than his concept art. I think it's interesting that in LEGO, there was so much emphasis on the color green, and then in his drawn depiction, that color was almost nowhere to be found. I originally wanted him to be sand green, but as it turns out, more of the pieces I ended up using come in this darker shade, and I think it looks great. It also complements the bright orange of his cockpit well, which was another decision made mostly out of necessity rather than preference, because these pieces here don't yet come in basic orange. That was a theme when it came to building this guy, because all of this excessive gray in the middle here is entirely because of the limited palette available for mixel joints and toe ball connectors. Basically, if I had free reign over my color options, this guy might look a whole lot different. As it is, he turned out way better than I could have possibly imagined, so maybe that's for the best. As far as his shape goes, I tried to stay as true to the source material as possible in spirit and silhouette, but I did streamline things a little bit, and I feel made him seem a little bit more practical. From the top here, it actually looks a little bit like a Y-Wing starfighter with these big booster units, although it does have these extra little fins on the side here. I guess you could consider these wings or stabilizers. Personally, I like to imagine them a little bit more like satellite panels. The original concept for this Cybertronian hyperjet is that it can travel at light speed. And so I came up with this idea where it sort of absorbs photons, and then it's able to turn the velocity of those light rays into some kind of futuristic one-to-one propulsion that in reserve allows him to reach nearly the speed of light. This back section here would either be energy storage or some kind of cooling system, maybe both. Unfortunately, his head is kind of tucked inside there, and you can kind of see it, although it is hidden from most primary angles, and, I mean, he's a Cybertronian spaceship, so I don't think it matters that much. For comparison, here he is alongside a very lost spaceman far from home. Here he is alongside another Cybertronian spaceship. And finally, here he is compared to Quickstop. Now, I don't usually come up with much of a narrative surrounding my characters, but this is a special occasion. I think of Solarstream as this ancient, legendary war hero known for his speed, who goes missing in action. Quickstop idolizes these legends, and even modified his vehicle mode with a rocket booster to emulate them. Perhaps Solarstream resurfaces sometime later and becomes a grizzled mentor character who is well past his prime. So I guess that makes him basically Doc Hudson, but a Transformer. Now, the conversion process is actually a fair bit different, because I wanted to maintain certain aspects of the original, but I also wanted to keep him as smooth as possible in both modes. And that meant pulling off kind of a switcheroo in the middle that flips everything around and makes him a little bit more interesting and a lot more complex. So first, we're going to bring these panels forward. These will be the arms, so we're going to lift them up and swing them out of the way. All right, next we're going to lift these up and out of the way as well before swinging down this entire bottom assembly. The cockpit section will come out, spin around, and collapse back in. And then we're going to split the actual cockpit itself and swing those off to the side. Now these will be the legs, so we'll split those and bring them down. And then we will very carefully disconnect this section here. The entire back assembly will swing up out of the way. And from here on out, there is only a simple jumper plate connection in the middle here, so we want to make sure that is secured. Here is the head. Momentarily, we're going to bring that down and rotate this around. Then we can collapse this up, and that'll give just enough clearance for the legs to come up as well. Then we can bring the head back down and set that in place before turning this back around. All right. Now we can take the chest plate, swing that up to the front, swing these panels to the front as well, bring them down and off to the side. These will be kind of skirt armor. So that's pretty cool. Then we can take this entire assembly, swing it around, and bring the legs up into place. Just like that. Now just situate the arms. Bring down his scorpion tail, just like that. And there you have Solarstream in robot mode. We're going to start things up on a stand because I think once he's airborne, he has this amazing presence to him. His proportions are very heroic, but there's also a sense of wisdom there, and of course his side skirts billowing in the wind like a trench coat are extremely striking. He's fairly articulated too. I like the expression in his head, as well as the additional movement in his hips, all thanks to those maxi-fig hands, which allow him to achieve these majestic Iron Man-style flight poses, which are fairly appropriate given his rocket hands. His legs are fairly nimble, and he's also lacking feet. But I think, given his speedy nature, that makes a little bit more sense than the big clown shoes on the original. On top of that, I like to imagine him just sort of floating there or hovering around instead of walking. Now, his chest plate is a lot more modest, and while I love the exaggerated super robot chest plate of the original, I think that this one is a little bit more appropriate for his overall silhouette. I'm glad that I was still able to flip the cockpit assembly around onto his chest, though, because I feel like that is an iconic motion of the original transformation. Another iconic feature is his scorpion tail, which I decided to sweep downwards this time, and I love the way that looks. I also decided to give it an additional feature as well. Of course, he can blast off at high speeds as well as use his rocket boosters as weapons, but his greatest offensive asset is the charged solar cannon. Using a similar principle as before, where his side skirts can sort of absorb light energy, he's able to expend all of it at once into a single, extremely powerful beam. I think this is a great concept, and it also makes that scorpion tail seem just a little bit more useful. As you can see, despite what you might think, it's actually not too difficult to balance him standing upright entirely on his own. Here he is compared to a minifigure, airlock, And finally, quick stop. Master and student. I think these guys look great together. Wrapping things up, I'd like to personally thank OneThatIs for years of inspiration. And wherever you are, I hope you're doing well, man. If you're unfamiliar with his videos, I urge you to go check them out, if not for the sake of their legacy alone. There will be a link in the description to both versions of Solarstream, and then you can go from there. Down below, you'll also find a list of members from our community also participating in this Allspark assembly. So definitely take a look at the other submissions to this challenge, and until next time, this has been Rollout, signing off.